The path of product development and entrepreneurship is challenging. That's why we talk with industry experts who share their uncensored advice in order to help you, the next generation of innovators and entrepreneurs, successfully take your ideas from conception to fruition. This is The Variable. Hello, everybody. Welcome. If this is your first time joining us here on the Variable Design Podcast, glad to have you joining us. Got an excellent program for you put together today. Right out the gate, I always like to hit you guys with some takeaways, some knowledge, and some goodness. So the first 5 minutes of our episode, we always start off with a good food for thought segment. Joining me today as co-host is the one and only Justin Adliff. Justin, how's it going, man?
Russ, what's happening? I'm here.
Oh, glad to have you with me. Okay, Justin, I don't know about you, dude, but yes, it has been a while, and it always seems in life, whenever things are going well, it's like the freaking calm before the storm. Is that just me? Or like, does that work like that for you too, where it's like, things are going good? Wait. Just give it a little bit.
Yeah, it's coming.
Something terrible is coming. Well, guys,
lean into the good times.
Lean into the good times because oh boy, it's coming. Okay, so takeaways from today. Literally, we had a quick calm before the literal shitstorm hit in my life. If you're not subscribed to our newsletter, I encourage you guys to go check out thevariable.design and sign up for our very sporadic, occasional emails that we sent out. If you missed this last one, I shared with everybody what's been going on since we've last spoken with you. And literally, it's a craptastic situation. My sewer main on my house is busted. And of course, I have to, as a show host, take every single mishap of my life and turn it into a life lesson, a takeaway for each and every single one of you. So I sent out the email blast, and so I'm going to read a couple things, and then I'm going to let you jump in too as well, Justin. I like to put a time limit on this, so I'm going to hit the 5-minute timer so we don't go too crazy. This is what I wrote to everyone, and I'm going to share with you because there's some key takeaways for all of you designers out there. So if you find yourself in this situation, I'm so sorry, because having your sewer main busted, having to cut it out, jackhammer, and dig really, really sucks. I wrote dealing with a crap
inside of your house.
Inside of your house, yeah. Dealing with dealing with a craptastic situation like a busted sewer line certainly warrants some choice language and frustration. But this isn't my first rodeo. And you see that picture that I show? It's my 4 boys, shoulder height, in this super deep pit that we're building. And my little boy Lincoln was so excited to be down in the hole with me, and I was excited to teach him how to work hard. So here are my key takeaways for all of you guys today. Number 1, some challenges just keep coming back. You may have nailed down how to source clients, and suddenly you find yourself back at square one all over again. This is my message to all of you. You've been here before, and you'll conquer this slump again. Keep your chin up. This isn't the first time, unfortunately, that I've had to dig and fix a sewer main. Growing up, I did it at my folks' house, ironically, who live right across the street from me. And so here I am again. Second takeaway, every challenge is a teaching opportunity. I've had the pleasure of digging like this before, like I said, but my kids have never done it. I could just do the work myself, which honestly would have been faster. But by taking the time to share my experience with someone else, it's far more rewarding. Whenever possible, try and turn challenges into mentoring opportunities and pass on your wisdom to somebody who's less experienced than you. Justin, have you had some craptastic situations that have been learning moments for you as well, man?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I live for it. I think that you got to get excited about it because it's going to happen anyways. So just embrace it.
Yes, embrace it.
Always be solution based, right? So, to relate it back to project work, projects don't always go smooth, believe it or not, because we're doing things that haven't been done before on almost every project. So lean into it and just be solution based, no matter what pivots happen. Look for what you can control. That's like probably the best advice anybody could give anybody, is look for what you can control and improve. So it maybe the client or your partner fell out on you and you want to say that, but I wouldn't even say that. I would just say, like, this is what I can do. This is what I can do to control. This is what I'm in control of, and this is what I can improve myself. It's just more productive. Then just mentally, I think, like, people are going to tell you to sleep and like sit in nature, but I think, like, honestly, you're not going to do that. So define a finish line, whether it's a 3-day push, right? It's like I'm running a marathon, right? Like, you want those mile tickers. You want to know you're at the 5th mile, 6th mile. Like, you got to know where you're at in the process so that you can endure it, right? And you got to, like, see the light at the end of the tunnel. And so then the last thing I have is just kind of, all these pushes are an evolution for you, all of them, every single one, as long as you survive. And don't forget to reflect and kind of do retrospective so that you can appreciate, the accomplishment and get better. Yeah, that's all I got, man.
I appreciate you sharing that, Justin. Well, and maybe people as designers are saying, they're like, okay, well, I'm not out there digging a freaking sewer main or doing something like that. Probably it's a little bit more applicable to them. Most recently, like, I've just interpersonal skills, and I love what you said earlier, is focusing on what you can control. I have a very good relationship with the people that I work with, but there's always going to be little tips and stuff's going to come up. In full disclosure, I overstepped most recently at work, and I kind of was ambitious, and I was focused on solving a problem and was moving towards that, but it was out of my jurisdiction, truthfully. And I needed to check through the right systems and have the person above me check with them before going to somebody else. And I kind of skipped that step in the spirit of good intentions, but like, hey, let's get this job done. Let's get this moving forward. And it kind of came back, and it bit me in the butt, and I got some feedback that was hard. It was a hard pill to swallow. But you said something earlier. So first off, if you're in that situation, it happens to the best of us. I'm not the best of everybody, but it happens where you'll overstep and you might get a slap on the wrist. It's okay. Oh, that's our timer. My key thing is, I love what you said earlier, Justin. You're like, focus on what you can control, and I can only control me and change the way that I approach things. So guys,
that's right.
That's our food for thought segment. Stick around. Right after our commercial break, we'll be introducing today's guest speaker, so don't go anywhere.
All the robots are coming. They're going to kill us and they're going to take our jobs.
HQ San Francisco Adobe. What a cool building.
So you can 3D print a patient a brand new heart? That's amazing.
We use materials like spacer meshes and leathers that feel like a Nike or a Jordan.
I think you were telling me that this thing is made out of coffee. Did I get that right?
That's right.
Look at that. So she's following his hand directions. And time to go to sleep.
Oh, it really is easy to move around. I'm just using my pinky to pull it.
Testing 1, 2. Hey, 1, 2.
That's insane. I love it.
I've learned how to laser engrave, how to 3D model, and these are things that I know I can take with me in the future in my design-based career.
This is part of the DNA of the group, creativity and innovation.
So this is our latest innovation, the 3D fashion technology.
So this is 3D printed.
The Beast Mode has a custom suspension specifically for this van.
It's a simple looking product, but imagine there was some struggle getting to this. So what makes this faucet different from the rest?
Wow, you can really see the difference.
Oh, it's always an entrepreneur's dream to have a positive impact in the world.
There's a lot of steel here.
Yes, this is the equivalent of recycling 7 cars.
Huh.
We all have to do our part. This is Dill's way to start pushing the envelope.
Now, what do you think of this donation dollar idea?
I actually love it.
You've been working with the Healthy Materials Lab.
Making things beautiful and healthy.
So you just combine avocado seed and sargassum seaweed? So that's truly a healthy material.
All right, everybody. Thanks for sticking with us, and glad to have you back. I'm excited to hear from him. I know you are too, so take a second, put your hands together, and share some love in the comments as we introduce today's guest speaker, the one and only Steve Cozzolino. Steve is an award-winning distinguished industrial designer with over 25 years of game-changing experience. In 2006, Steve launched Cozzolino Studios, a full-service product design, strategy, and branding studio. Steve's focus and Design Studio's mission is to disrupt the present and inspire the future. He believes that empathy is one of the most powerful design tools in developing relevant, compelling experiences for all. Steve strives to create iconic designs and one-of-a-kind solutions that engage and resonate with consumers. By bringing disruptive designs and memorable experiences to market, Steve elevates brands and helps grow businesses, connecting people to everyday objects and public spaces in a more meaningful way. Steve, thanks for joining us here on The Variable. We're excited to have you with us today.
Thanks, Russ. Appreciate it. Excited here too.
Yeah, dude. It's been a long time coming. I know it's taken us a while to get our schedules aligned, but I'm so glad to have you joining us on the show. I think first and foremost, you got to tell us a little bit more about what's going on. I knew I threw the preview, the trailer for this upcoming season of By Design. And so what do people, obviously we saw some sneak peeks there. What are some of the awesome stuff that people get to look forward to? And why do you think the industrial design community should be checking out this kind of stuff?
Well, yeah, it's a great show. First of all, it's season 4 of Innovations is premiering this Saturday night. So
I'm sorry, 4.
And season 3, sorry, season 3. We're working on season 4 isn't going. So season 3 is airing, premiering Saturday night worldwide. It's streaming on CBS News Network, which is also tied into Paramount Plus. And then in February of 2023, it'll be live on TV, CBS Saturday nights. So then we move on to season 4. It's continuing to grow and expand and promote design in general. I think it's an amazing show because it really communicates the power of design, the impact we can have on people's lives on an everyday basis, but also contributing to the world on a greater scale, contributing to the environment and improving that. And you'd see some of the segments on there focus on that, right? And it's very educational as well. One segment I'll be on for season 3 is with American Standard, and it's about water filtration. So it's addressing filtration not only in the sink that we know when you're drinking water for health and wellness, but also in the shower. So your skin is the largest organ on your body.
Yeah.
Right? That you'll learn not to give up too much. But again, it's about overall health and well-being. And then it's also about conserving water, saving on water. So there's a contribution to your health and also an impact on the environment. And that's a common theme throughout the show. So it shows really the true power and meaning and value of design.
Okay, fantastic. I definitely encourage all of you guys who are out there to go and check it out. I think it's great. It helps us as a part of our careers in our profession. It's good to have our finger on the pulse of what's new and exciting. And I think it's an excellent resource that people can see what's going on. And it's easy to pick out the negatives in terms of where we need to improve as in a design community, but then seeing some of the good things that are taking place and showcasing it. I applaud you guys. I think it's an excellent platform to increase awareness about our profession. Because I don't know about you, like I had no idea what ID was until I was flipping a fry basket at In-N-Out Burger with my good old buddy John Bennett, who was already in the program, and he just started telling me about it. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to switch my degree right now and start doing that. And the next day I did. And so giving that exposure to the world, I think is fantastic. Okay. I can go on about that. That's a rabbit hole.
I discovered design in the library. By the way, Russ, I didn't to date myself. I actually went to the library. And I discovered Raymond Loewy and Teague.
That's funny.
Lauren Bell Geddes and industrial design back in the day when I was in college.
Well, and so it needs some exposure. That goes without being said. I just have to ask real quick, how did you get pulled into that? And obviously there's something that's exciting and fun about doing it. Now you've been in a few different seasons now, and you've stuck with it. Can you share with us, like, hey, how did you get put on the radar and pulled into this cool show? And then B, like, are there any fun behind the scenes things or stuff that's going on that you're like, oh, this is what makes it worth it. This is what's made it super fun.
Well, first I got introduced to the executive producers. It's through the connections, right? Who you know. So
Sure.
I used to be design director at Karim Rashid Studio from in the early 2000s, and he's on the show. So he connected me with them. I had another couple friends are on the show, Scott Henderson, Eileen Shaw, and they also introduced me to the producers. So, you know, multiple friends had referred me there and said, hey, this guy needs to be on the show. And I was interested. You know, I expressed my interest. I reached out. You know, you have to. I'm a big believer in you create your own luck, right? There's something about luck.
I love that. You create your own luck.
Dylan. Yeah, I'm a huge Dylan fan, right? So Bob Dylan said back in the mid '60s when he was actually taking interviews and speaking with journalists, he'd say you have to be at the right place, the right time, with the right stuff. And I believe what that kind of extends to is creating that time and creating that luck. So yeah, you have to create your own luck by being tenacious and determined to get that interview, right? For instance, and I wanted to meet these producers and be part of the show because I saw the value in the show. It was very attractive to me. And I said, I think this is something that I need to be involved in, the studio needs to be involved in as a way to, again, help promote design, contribute to design, and educate. And I was excited about that opportunity, so I pursued it. I reached out to them, and then we had a couple calls, and before you know it, working on season 4 now.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that it's been going and it's been successful enough to continue with multiple seasons, because nobody wants to like invest in something and have it drop off the map right away. Overall, great success. I have been diligent and I have seen all of season 1. I know that an ASU alumni with
Rebecca Fennell at the
yes.
Zip Top. You brought her onto the show, actually.
She was on the show, and she was invited to be a judge, as I recall.
Yeah, well, she not only was on the show, she won.
She won, yeah, I know.
But Zip Top
was
rewarded, you know, it's the top 10. I mean, the show, the format is, if anybody doesn't know it, I'm a judge and a presenter on the show.
Right.
You have say there's 6 shows, right? On each show, there's about 5 to 6 innovations, and then the judges, you know, vote on the final 1 or 2 that go on to be the top 10.
Yes.
And then the last show is the top 10, and she was number 1 out of that.
Well, she
as
is
the winner.
The pride of ASU's industrial design program. After successfully getting her degree there, she went on to launch Boone, and it's very frequent where she and her accomplishments are mentioned in the program. Having heard about it a lot myself while I was in the halls there at ASU. Steve.
Yeah. And real quick on that note, Russ, I'll build off that. I think just because we talk about innovation a lot on the show, it's basically around innovation, right, and disruption. And so innovation, I always look at innovation 2 ways to create innovation around to being innovative. One is utilizing, taking new technologies and new materials and apply them, right? Or taking existing materials, existing technologies, and apply them in a new, unique, different way. Right. And that's what Rebecca did, right? She took silicone and a Ziploc technology, right? Combine the two together to create a unique container without a lid, save on material. It has a tremendous impact on the environment, and the usability is amazing. It saves on finding lids and mismatching your lids to your food storage containers. So again, enabling using nothing new, it's existing material and the technology of a Ziploc, and marrying them together in quite the innovation.
That is the key to innovation. So if you guys are tuning in and you're in a little bit of a slump, trying to figure out what to do next, sometimes we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We just need to get creative with existing parts and components and give them a tweak. And I think that the sum is, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And this, especially in that situation, we're taking a Ziploc and silicone. Well, there's plenty of Ziploc silicones. And I remember seeing, I don't know if it was you on one of the trailers or one of the episodes where you just ripped it in half with some of those knockoffs that they have, because you can, it's wise execution and intentionality that can make the difference of just between, oh, let's Frankenstein a couple of things. Well, take it a step further and that's the key to innovation. Justin, any thoughts that you want to add on to some of those takeaways?
No, but I was curious about innovation versus new to world. I always think of, I like, Steve, how you added some framework to the word innovation. I think that's something that gets thrown around a lot. But you didn't mention that it was completely new to a world. So yeah, something to think about. And that was just what I was thinking about anyways.
Right.
That's a tough one to pull off. Truly game-changing into the world. It has happened. I mean, I've been fortunate enough of doing this long enough. Even early on as a young designer, I worked on some amazing game-changing, one-of-a-kind, category-defining products, the Swiffer and the Wet Jet Swiffer back in the mid-90s. Right. So that is new to the world and is still around, going on, coming on 30 years before you know it. And it's one iteration after the next.
That's awesome. Man.
Very cool. Thanks.
Very cool. Okay. There's got a lot of stuff that we can cover. And one of the things that we mentioned in your company's mission statement as we introduced you, Steve, was that your mission statement for your company is disrupt the present, inspire the future. So I'd love for you to lean into that a little bit. And so my first question for you then on that topic is, why is disrupting the present an important part of your business model?
Well, because number one, we work a lot in the consumer sector. So that's, I think about 75% of our work is with consumer product. A lot of it's housewares, right? So if you're designing consumer product, the end goal is what makes a consumer decide to purchase the product you design over another one, right? And a lot of that's cost-based. You don't want to get into a cost war there because it's just about price. So that's not your audience. Your audience is, okay, who wants the better design or something that appeals to them that they want to bring home, and it's for someone to purchase your product, that's a behavior that's powerful. It's like there's something there that you have to connect with someone emotionally. And I always go like, form follows emotion, because you're making that emotional connection. Somebody falls in love with that product. Now, I'll do a quick example on that. It's funny, when I was teaching, the first day of class, I'd always say, what is good design, right? And that's the question. So it's like, it's not a quiz or a test, it's a quest for knowledge, but it's really, there's no wrong or right answer. It's subjective. It's like, what's your take on design and what makes design good, right? And I remember back, I was presenting at school at ND, Notre Dame, and it was our 10-year reunion. I presented to the students, the underclassmen, and one of my classmates had put something on the slides. A product I worked on at Karim Rashid Studio was proud of packaging. And she said, I don't know what it is. I love this packaging. I just got to have it. I love it. I said, there's the emotional connection right there. You get a deep emotional connection, long lasting love, right? So that, love that over time too, is going to change and evolve and grow that connection you have with that product. So that's why it's important to really disrupt a behavior. And I guess I could show it better than tell it. So here's like disruption.
Ooh.
Right here, right? So the method soap bottle, right back at working at Karim's in the early mid 2000s. So this was a simple idea. No one had done it before. This is new to the world too, as we've discussed. And it's basically observing consumer behavior, what people do. And people can't really tell you what they do. You have to observe and watch them, right? But the typical behavior was go to the store, buy your soap, and then you have your own separate stainless steel or ceramic container, and you put your soap refill in, and there you have it. Well, why not? The obvious solution, why not make the actual product, the packaging you're buying off the shelf, be beautiful enough to leave on your countertop? So between the form factor, the clarity of it, the lightness of it, and this bold, iconic form, I go to friends' homes all the time, and families' homes, and I'm in the bathroom or in the kitchen, I see the soap bottle. That was quite disruptive in the category. No one had done that before. And I don't think you always have to be first. It's always, it's better to be best than first. But
that's a good takeaway. It's better to be best than first. And that's what I think you could put some clarity on that. I was going to ask a follow-up question like, okay, how do you define disrupting? And because I feel like as young designers, that's kind of like a life's mission. Like, oh, I really want to shake up the industry and make waves and make a big difference and so on and so forth. And one could argue like, okay, Steve, you made a soap dispenser. Like, that wasn't curing cancer or changing the world. But with that example right there, you said, no, we disrupted this space because the status quo was this before, and suddenly now the expectation is this. And you're absolutely right, because I have soap dispensers on the side of my sink in my house, and everybody else's. And so now that's the norm, and that's been a pivot because of design and influence. So
and method was a disruptor. So imitation is the greatest form of flattery, right? So now you see what happened was they ran end caps in Target and Home Depot and every grocery store you go to, they're everywhere, right? So then the next thing you see is more and more soap bottles that are clear and have a beautiful form and attention to design. and details. So.
And now
And I mean, it's like the levels of disruption. There's different levels. You don't have to be, one of a kind, game changing level of that. That's one form of disruption. But you'd be disruptive on a different scale or different level, like just color in itself, or introducing a new material, right? Like we'll use another Karim product, the Garbo trash can, right? No one had thought of considered trash cans like that, and that was before my time at Karim's. But to do a beautifully sculptural, sensual garbage can that has a translucency to it, but a nice color. I mean, no one had taken that material, that form factor, and that color, and how those all work together. No one had taken that into garbage cans before. So that was a tremendous way of disruption. But here's another level of disruption. I have another product here on my desk. So we have here's one, we do pencil sharpeners, right? So here's one for Westcott. And it's like, right, how do people empty sharpeners, right? Take the top off. Again, observing consumer behavior, dump it, or take the canister and dump out the shavings. That's how you empty it, right? And there's about 3 or 4 steps there. So can we eliminate or minimize those 3 or 4 steps and make it simpler?
For those who are going to hear this in podcast land later on, can you tell them what was the brand of sharpener that you just held up so they can take a look?
Westcott. So here's the solution, Westcott.
Okay.
Now Westcott. We did a one-touch push button technology, flip the lid to dump out your shavings. Right? It's just a one touch. So we took an existing, there's nothing fancy about a push button that's existed as long as buttons have been around, right? But push button technology, a simple mechanism that's been around for ages, and applied it in a different way to the top of pencil sharpeners, right? So it's again, disruption on different levels. This is more of a functional disruption as well, and that's tied in and married to the form factor and expression design, which becomes its own personality. So objectality, I call it object with personality.
Awesome. So what are some of the ways that right now, I mean, obviously you're working on projects that might be under non-disclosure and whatever, so this might be hard to answer. What are some of the things that you're doing now to disrupt the present, to be a disruptor in this space?
A couple big projects, right? So, and I think we go back to the method soap bottle, it saves on material waste because people aren't buying additional containers. So there's that contribution from a material waste. And we're working on that too, and addressing single-use plastics. That's one of the projects and areas I love that we're involved in. We work with a big beverage company, and we do actually a lot of 3D animations that showcase new technologies on how to save waste and material, right? And here's an example, a label, okay? Has a lot of plastic in it that's not used. It's clear labels, right? So if you can eliminate the clear portion of the label, or just a little bit of that label that goes on every bottle, whether it's a water bottle, soda bottle, etc., that's millions and millions.
That adds up.
Bottles.
Yeah,
and that adds up. So there's the numbers game, right? So that's an important contribution. I think I love the projects that we're working on now that contribute, right? So that contributes, to the environment. And then another project that we've been working on over the last few years through the pandemic is with Fifth Avenue here in New York City. It's basically working with parklets on parklets. Do you know designing parklets? You know what a parklet is?
No, enlighten me.
So it's a converted parking space
Okay.
Into an area that people can gather, relax with street furnishings. So the constraint is 7 feet from the curb, and then how many lengths of parking spaces we take up, or underutilized space that's not being used off the curb on the sidewalk in the Fifth Avenue district. And those are spaces that are approved by DOT, Department of Transportation, and they work with each individual bids, the Business Improvement District. For this was the Fifth Avenue district around the Apple Store, Saks Fifth Avenue and MoMA. People are familiar. It's like one of the most populated, tourist areas in New York City. So that's great because we're addressing these public spaces, and how do we make them more inviting, engaging, comfortable, and safe, right? We actually activate that space. And how we do that, I mean, one of the, just say, disruptive approaches is we've brought in more greenery out onto the streets, literally, of the city. So we've taken these border planters, they're called, by Magrin, and they literally provide a boundary. They're like a bollard with a planter in it. So it brings in greenery. It creates two things: one, a barrier for protection and safety, and then two, this kind of nice barrier, almost like a wall of greenery, so you're kind of separate from the traffic and the pleasantries of the streets of the city.
Hey, Steve.
Sorry?
Hey, Steve, this is Justin. Quick question. These parklets, are they temporary, or are they somebody who's sacrificed the parking in order to create space?
The goal is to make them permanent. right? So they shift from temporary to permanent.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I wasn't sure if all this stuff had to be like moved at the end of the day or moved for the weekend or something, that'd be an interesting challenge. Go ahead.
Yeah. And it depends on the park, right? Some of these have benches that have plants and trees, small shrubs in them. They're not going to be moved, right? Those are permanent. And other areas where they do want to move it. So it's a combination. It's not one or the other. It's a combination. Depends on what's best for that location, right? Sometimes it's just cafe tables, right? With chairs that they lock up and fold and put away at night.
Yeah.
It's really, our focus was work, gather, and relax. So it allowed tourists or visitors to come and sit down after going to MoMA. Like we're working on a parklet for 53rd and 5th Avenue by MoMA. And then by 50th, there's the Saks Fifth Avenue and then St. Pat's Cathedral. So if you're either shopping and you want to take a load off or have lunch or check up on your phone and kind of orient yourself if you're new to the city, or after church, you want to be with your friends and mingle, or you visited MoMA and you want to talk after walking through the museum. I mean, these are areas that allow that for people, people to do that in the city. And the most important part of the project was really thinking of that context, the user, the people, having them in mind, but having the context, the surrounding area in mind. So for example, on 58th Street and 5th Avenue, that's where the Apple store is. Everybody knows that area in Grand Army Plaza. And right there on 58th Street, we wanted to create almost like an outdoor Starbucks experience, a cafe experience where everybody's on their laptop, right? So we had like basically high tops set up with the layout and design as high tops with benches or bar stools, and then people can work on their laptop while they're waiting for a Genius appointment or after checking out what they just purchased at the Apple store. And then on the other side of the avenue is Bergdorf Goodman, and that's a restaurant and bar. And the whole idea is to extend that restaurant bar experience out to the street.
Yeah.
So that was like we spec beer tables, longer benches, bar stools as well, just to give that more of a, food, a way for people to socially gather outside the bar. And again, that evolved all during the pandemic. It's still in development. So that's not on the street right now currently, but with open restaurants and having the restaurants outdoors, that was a huge missed opportunity for the city, I think, because now they want to take all those out because they're like just shacks and they weren't designed well. They're poorly designed, they're eyesores, most of them, not all, but the city's taking them down now because they're just, and it's a brutal waste of material and opportunity there.
Oh man, that's got to be so rewarding, Steve, to be able to look and see the kind of impact you're able to make on their physical surroundings. I think that's the ideal situation all designers would like to find themselves in. But I'd like for you to weigh in on this then. What's like a realistic expectation for young designers in terms of like how they can impact the future at the stage of the game that they're in right now? Because I mean, I think all of us would love to be like, ooh, let's get the keys to have a project like that, and I'm gonna change the world. And like my younger brother just last night, he's in his first year of ID, and he came to me and he says, where do you see me in a year? And I said, right here, still studying. Like I don't know what you're expecting. You're not going to be curing cancer and be known yet, but it's not out of the question. So coming back to it, like, what's your message to, because you didn't get to where you're at overnight, and what's a realistic expectation for a brand new recent grad junior designer? That's not to say that they can't make an impact, but what should they expect for themselves so they can still feel fulfilled, like they're doing good and not get down that they haven't reached this level of work yet?
Well, I guess I'm going to answer your question with a pushback on expectations. I'll say it's not to have expectations. Okay, that's my answer. I think not to have expectations, but have goals, aspirations, and have dreams, right? And so I have this thing. De La Vega is a local artist in the city, and this piece of art I have on the wall says, "Become your dream," right? And it's like a little fish in a big fish bowl, and then it turns into a big fish into a little glass of water. Mm-hmm. So it's like become your dream. That's what you want to be, the big fish in the pond rather than the small fish. But in general, I think, for instance, I had an aspiration. I wanted to work with Karim. He really impressed me when I was a young designer. It's like, I want to be in that studio and learn and do what he's doing. And then that's what I worked for, and, took that risk. Yeah, and make that happen. So I think expectations are, in general, like thoughts of like how to get there, be willing to take risks, right? Be willing to make mistakes and get rejections. I had so many rejections. throughout the years out of college, right? And you're going to have that, and that's part of it, right? So you expect to have, rejection, a lot of it. Expect to need to work hard. Like, just roll your sleeves up and work hard. And it's not it's not the long-term goal necessarily. Even though I mentioned dream, it's short-term, right? It's like slow and steady wins the race. For instance, great example. I looked at my portfolio after graduating from Notre Dame, and I'm like, to compete with some of these students from Art Center and CCS, I need to redo this whole portfolio. So my roommate and I, we stayed after graduation 2 months after school. We were able to. We lived by campus. We just went back and used the university and the art studio, and I redid all the projects I wanted to show, my favorite projects, even with some sophomore year. Because by senior year, I'm sketching better than I am sophomore year, and hopefully all my skills are advanced and better. So I just redid all the projects. And then I'm saying, okay, these are my, and it was a tough economic time to find a job. And so we just had to set, and at that point we were mailing letters. Students have it totally different now. I don't know if it's easier, but it's like you can send out 100 emails in an hour, right? I actually go to the post office, mail CDs of the portfolio and print outs a one-page teaser with a cover letter, print those out and go to the post office. So, and it's like, so that type of relentless hard work ethic, and like, just go for it. And don't be afraid, right? If you say, hey, I want to work at, back in the day it was IDEO or Frog, then go for it. I want to work at Google right now, go for it. If I want to work at Amazon as a designer, go for it. You have LinkedIn, you do a ton of research. And so I don't know if it's necessarily expectations is the right word. I think it's just the attitude of willing to take whatever, do whatever it takes to get there, to wherever you want to achieve. And anything can be accomplished. It's just find a great mentor, right? Someone to learn. I was fortunate. My first design job at Accessory Design, I had an amazing design director who really inspired me and influenced me, and I learned a lot from him. So you're always learning. So to me, the expectation is you're always willing to learn. We're all students always learning and developing and growing. And you in my mind, the way someone grows, especially as a performance-wise from a designer, you get to different levels, right? So you start your first internship, maybe you get to a certain level and you plateau. Then that was a big jump, right? And to get to the next level is a different experience, a different internship, or your first job, right? And then you get to your first job, you're there for 3, 4, 5 years, learning, and then you plateau, right? You find out where those levels are every plateau. Then you change jobs, and that's how you get to the next level and the next. And that's the journey of personal growth and professional growth.
It definitely is. That's great. Justin.
I'm just laughing. I'm just thinking, like, I keep telling young designers, like, I've been doing this for 30 years, and I go, you got so much time to make mistakes, and there's so much longevity that's necessary. So I appreciate what Steve's saying. It's just reinforcing, like, you don't have to do this in 2 years.
Right. Don't overwhelm yourself.
Take it easy, man.
Expectations, right? Don't overwhelm yourself with expectations, right?
That's right.
Yeah, it took these notable designers years to get where they're at, and so if you're not there yet, it's okay. But I love what you said, though, Steve. It's like you still want to have goals and aspirations and just work hard to get there, but almost with the zero expectations of, like, this is where I should be. But like my brother's asking me, where should I be in a year? I'm like, yeah, take it a day at a time.
Just have the willingness, right? Have the willingness to fail, to make mistakes, and learn from your mistakes, and try again, and be resilient that way. Take those risks, right? You have to take those risks and be willing to fail and make mistakes. But the saying, fail early and fail often. Hard.
Yeah. Well, and fail wisely too. Fail where it's safe to fail. And I love your story too. Even most recent, how did you get connected with the By Design series and get involved as a judge on there? Well, I was interested and I pursued it and I started connecting with people, and then it worked out for me. And I find that in my life, what little experience I have, as I continue to make connections with people and just keep throwing it out there, eventually some surprising things stick as you continue to just chuck it at the wall. And it seems serendipitous, but the right stuff just works out. Alrighty. Topic of today, like, we've hit a lot of different stuff, and that's fantastic. Lots of good takeaways, but the title of the show that we put is The Art of Design. And I know that your buddy Scott Henderson has a lot to say about this as well. He's been on the show and we've discussed it, and I'd love for you to weigh in as well. So the question that I wrote down is, many draw a hard line between art and design. We'd love for you to elaborate your perspective and then share with us, how has your approach changed the way that you execute your design work?
Mm-hmm. Well, and I won't get into flow, and that's Scott.
That's his thing, yeah.
Art, no, I think art is design in my mind, and vice versa, design is art. But, I know people, the hard line they draw is like non-functional art, right?
Yes.
That does art not have a function or a meaning or a purpose? I don't think that's true, right? If you're an art gallery, it's so passive. I mean, you're saying like a lot of things on our phone right now, it's the most passive device. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of interactivity there and interaction with apps, but there's also passive, experience. And I think art's just that way. It's a different type of art in a museum is a different experience. It's a passive experience. But when you design an object or an app, there's a touch point there of interaction, right? So there's that emotional connection again we go back to. But anytime you have an object can touch you as much as you touch it. And then of course there are the non-physical designs, such as again with the easy one, the immediate one, apps or websites. And it's just that point of navigation and that experience. Is it a pleasant experience that you're developing? Does it add and contribute to someone's life? We're fortunate here in the studio. We do a lot of consumer products that people deal with every day, right? And it improves their lives on a daily basis. It addresses ritual, which are like a ritual of getting ready for work or getting ready for school, coffee in the morning, the shower and shave, right? There's always somebody's got their routine of how they're getting ready for work, right? Or school. And those rituals, even serving dinner, making dinner and serving dinner or breakfast. It's like, there's so many rituals and you come in touch with so many products every day, even just before you get to the office. It's, there's a lot that we're touching on people's lives that we don't even realize it.
Definitely. And
that's an amazing way to connect people. So I think that design, if you want to answer that question, that side of design, I think that's where people are making the separation. But, there's a lot of importance to beautiful art hanging on the wall that makes you feel a certain way.
Yeah. And I agree. That's my take on it. Like you said earlier, there's a lot of people that they say utility is the dividing line between art and design. But I feel like there's a missed opportunity if you say, well, design is not art. And so therefore the way that I go about, I feel like you're then putting your design solutions in a very specific box. And most times I say that metaphorically, but it turns things more geometric and very linear whenever you're saying, oh, this is design. And then artsy stuff is far more organic and whatnot. And almost as if that doesn't have a place in design. And I think that's a crock of crap. Like we could, if we open up to being artistic in our form and our language, we are then giving ourselves more tools to create emotional impact. That's Russ on his soapbox, but go ahead and elaborate, please.
Like the performance art, right? I don't mean to interrupt you, but the performance art too, and Fluxus way back when in the 60s and 70s. It's like there's meaning, a lot of meaning there, and there's lots of messaging there. Sure. Art today, there's lots of messaging in there, and that has an impact on people, the way people think, the way people behave, and treat each other. So, art has a ton of significance too. So I'm with you on that.
Cool. Okay. So then I always like to say this. So therefore what? So therefore what? So what are some actionable takeaways? Yeah, actionable takeaways that designers can apply to their work with this kind of perspective that we've got, where there can be a happy marriage between art and design, whether you agree with that or not. I think that there's still some takeaways that you can say so I kind of alluded to the fact that if you take a more artistic approach, you're now giving yourself more liberty and tools to create emotional impact. I mean, is there anything you'd add as far as like, so if you have this perspective, then by doing this can help step up your work? I don't know. Anything actionable that we can share with people?
Definitely in my mind. And this is twofold. I think it's a way to approach a project or a mindset. And also, I think, I don't know if it's achievement or what you're trying to achieve, but first thought is, okay, a lot of clients, they want to be on trend. They want to follow trends. It's like we get an air purifier project, we get 3 or 4 questions on that. We get projects on that. Coffee maker pour over coffee, when that was a trend, and cold brew, we got like 3 or 4 project requests for that. It's, people start following the same trends. Right now, it's interesting, visual brand language, VBL. We just did a huge VBL program looking at 2027, 5 years out. What's the kitchen environment going to be like? How are people going to behave in that environment? 5 years out, and we did create a whole visual brand language for core products: a blender, coffee maker, food processor, grill, and toaster. And not to get too much into that project, that project is understanding the brand, the persona or personality of the brand, with the values of that brand, creating design themes, and then creating signature design, taking the abstract, the art, and creating signature design elements, whether they're touch points, details, colors, materials, finishes, and establishing a family aesthetic or a family look that's really going to be cohesive and pull the objects and the product line together. Mm. Now, as far as the approach to that, right, you go back to the art, I always think of art, I kind of pull it with fashion, right? The artistic approach is a fashion forward approach. And I always wanted to not follow trends just by the basis and basic definition of trends is that they're always changing and moving, right? Like fashion, they're always moving. So you're always chasing that target. So I'd rather be beyond the trend. So, I'd rather be our objects on the inspiration image boards rather than using inspiration and image boards. And a great example of this, I love this. I was back in when I lived in San Francisco, Pentagram. I'm not sure if that office exists any longer, but anyway, they had a presentation. They were showing their project. And they showed the inspiration boards, and my senior thesis project was on the inspiration board. I was actually published in ID Magazine. Which a lot of people don't know what ID Magazine is. Back in the day, there were actually magazines that had Designs Awards and a student award, and I was the best on that. And it was on their board. So I'm like, there you go, professional design studio. But it's like, again, and a lot of the Karim products would be on boards for inspiration. It's like, I'd rather be that, and I'd rather be beyond the trend. I'd rather be classic, timeless, and enduring. If you're going to fall in love with that object should be kind of enduring and timeless. And I always have that conversation with my clients to be beyond the trends and fashion.
Be beyond the trends.
Having that mindset. Yeah, so that's that value, and that's that kind of mindset and approach when starting a project. And how do you do that? Well, a lot of times you look for what's not being done. So you walk through stores. Back in the day when Bed Bath was the store of end-all stores, right? You go through there, working with designing cookware for Cuisinart or coffee makers. I would go walk the aisles and see what's not being done, what's not on the shelves. Those are the opportunities. Mm-hmm. So to have that abstraction almost, and like that's in a way very creative. Like you're, as a designer, you're a creative problem solver, but more importantly, you're a creative problem identifier or opportunity identifier. And typically the opportunities, whether you're looking online, researching, or I still encourage students to go in the stores, walk stores, see what's there on the shelf and what's not being done. And it could be something as simple as a material or color and finish, as we talked about earlier.
Oh, that's great. Justin, what would you say if you were going to add on that as well? Because that's a hard question to answer. What can you do to be beyond the trend? And you've got more experience in this than I do. Because I think that's young designers, that's what we're going to do. We're going to go hit up Pinterest, Behance, and whatever online resources and start getting ideas. And I've talked with a few designers that they're like, yeah, I don't do that. I don't look at that stuff. Some of them, it's because they're like, because then I see how much better everybody else in the world is than I am, and I don't like that reality.
Always know, that's important, man. Always know there is someone better out there.
Always is. But you know, it's humbling, and so that's why they don't. But I gotta wonder, like, is there value to, like, at least at the beginning, not looking for inspiration in places? I think you talked about going and looking down the aisles and seeing what isn't being done. I don't know if it's something you could add to that, Justin, as far as what ways that we can be beyond it, be the inspiration.
Yeah, yourself. So, I mean, I agree with everything that's been said. The words that I've been trying to use is just, so I agree with, just to be more specific, with Steve saying, I'm driving at classic, like deliberate, like enduring. Enduring is a new word to me. That's a great word. So that's where my push is. And then what I'm adding to that, to nod to the art, or to nod to, being beyond, is just character, right? So I'm kind of reducing things down to the principles and make sure that it's kind of classic and it's going to endure. It's not offending a trend, right? Depending on the client. If your client has the marketing budget to go against trend, then they'll be successful. If they don't have a marketing push to match, then they're going to sink, right? They're going to sink. So you got to really consider, like we always say, are you going to break the icon of the hammer, or are you going to design a hammer that looks like a hammer from 20 foot, right? So and that's a marketing question to me. I'm not going to break the icon of a hammer if I don't have a huge marketing push to support that, or I'm just not a company that people are waiting. There's a lot of companies people are expecting to break the icon, right? And that's okay, because that's the expectation and they've already established themselves. So I use the word character a lot. I'd say to a designer, like, look, we're trying to be classic. We're trying, in the companies that I'm at, I'm not trying to be trending. However, what are you bringing into that game that just gives it a twist of character? Because you also don't want to be like kind of homogenous or like blending in. I've done a lot of what Steve says, where you just stare at the shelf and you just go like, what am I going to do to stand out? And you don't want to be weird and gross to stand out. You want to be competitive and you want to stand out with character. So that's all I can add, is just kind of like, think about, is it the right company, and do you have the right resources to break and disrupt the trend? Awesome. Bring it. If you don't, note the icons and just look for a kind of a twist of character. And sometimes that just comes from who you are as a person, and your own kind of experience. And I think as a leader, I'm always trying to like let that live, right? Like if that designer has a certain twist that they put on things, if it's not going to hurt, the product I'm selling or being useful, I'm going to let them roll with it, right? And let them have that character, because sometimes that's where an inspiration comes from, is just that personal character. Yeah. Within the VBL, right? Write your visual brand languages to inspire designers instead of confine them. I guess that's another thing I try to do. Yeah, it's a great topic. I love it.
Yeah, and to build off that too, Justin, I think that there's so much inspiration out there. It's hard. I don't believe people are influenced so easily because, again, I go back to the day when I was a student, I had to go to the library to look at stuff and see things. You never see what's out there. Now, you just scroll through your phone for 5 minutes, you've seen a ton of new designs that don't even exist, but it's hard not to even subconsciously be, influenced by what you see visually. Then it kind of gets back into your mindset and it may pop out 3 months from later in a sketch, or, it's just amazing how much what's accessible visually, and you got to be what you see, right? Up there now.
Enjoy it, right?
So
enjoy it. There's so much to take in. Even the people that are amazing, I still love and enjoy it. The other thing I noticed about trend was, when I was in retail, we had a company come and present quarterly. Here's all the trends, and they left behind kind of style boards. And if you really look at it, you can almost compile anything you want. At some point, like, there's so many trends that you could piece together a trend board that is opposite of another trend board at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's a kind of an elusive thing. I think, there's definitely like what is trending in pour over coffee. So when you zoom in granular, like Steve was saying, sure, like, your merchants and the people around you in the business of are going to say, hey, our competitors are doing this, and I just say, well, do you want to follow them or disrupt it, right? But if you really look organically at trend, like what are the colors of the year? What are the patterns? What's the fashions? There's so much going on that you could almost compile anything and say, yeah, this is trending. It's almost like statistics, right? You can kind of bend it to your agenda. So I guess my point there is just like, there's grand trends, and then there's like zoomed in, like in your industry on that product line, competitive trends. And the only question I ever have for any team in a design brief is are you trying to stand out or blend in? Just very specifically. Yeah.
The Me Too, you mentioned the grand version of that is like, I always think of Apple. I go back to the iPhone. Like, all these phones look like the iPhone. It defined an archetype, right? And so it set the stage for what all these phones look like now in the future. Same with the laptops, sleek, titanium, and it defines those categories visually and has that level of grand, Me Too-ism, if you will.
Yep. Carry an industry, product line, or whatever. Cool.
Guys, we appreciate you. Unfortunately, this is our lunch and learn, and the lunch hour is very limited. So before I finish things off, I want to give all of you listeners out there a quick reminder to please support the channel just by hitting that subscribe button. More awesome content in variables, key takeaways that we can share with you on how to step up your game as a creative, as an industrial designer. And a special thank you to all of those who have made the channel what it is today. Steve, Well, one last thing before we let you go. We call the channel the Variable Design Podcast because nobody sucks on purpose, okay? We are a culmination of mentorship and advice that people take us under our wing and say, hey, dude, please, for the love of Pete, don't use Comic Sans in your presentation ever again. And we go, okay, yes, sir, I won't do that, and I will make it better. And so what is your key takeaway, the catalyst that has been a big deal breaker for you in helping you become who you are today? What's your variable that you can share with our audience today?
Well, I think my variable is determination, because determination encompasses everything. It covers persistence, perseverance, hard work, right? And being relentless, tenacious, and fearless, having no fear. Be willing, if you're determined, you'll be willing to take those risks, be willing to make those mistakes, try and try again, right? You hear these truisms all the time. The reason is because they are true, right? And it's like, if you're humble too, if you're determined, you have to approach it in a humble way. And it's just like, you're going to try and try again until you get what you want to achieve, and that to me, I've been determined. That's taken me through 2 economic recessions, a tragedy in September 11th, right? That was tremendous in the US and then worldwide, and then the worldwide pandemic, right? And you got these challenges that come small or large, and you got to be determined to get through those roadblocks. And I was determined to work at Karim's, determined to get on American by Design, and that we didn't get into the path of that too much, but that just, I could say with a lot of hard work and determination, we get there. So that's what I would like students to take away from this, or anyone listening. And for students too, be determined and follow through, right? It's amazing. I have these interviews. We're looking for a young junior designer right now, and I've had a handful of interviews this past month. It's amazing. I don't even get an email response saying thank you for your time, and attention. It's amazing. That was an automatic, and I don't even get those barely anymore. And to me, that's it's man, if someone even sent me a thank you letter, that would get my attention. You're right to the top of the list. I had a phone call.
Oh, the secret's out, guys.
So anyway, that's just, hey man, old school, right? But it's just again, expressing your willingness, desire, and determination to, hey, I'm going to work hard and bring what I have, bring it to the table.
Awesome. Steve Cozzolino, you're awesome. We appreciate you joining us here on the show. Encourage you guys to check out Steve in this next season of America by Design. That's going to be featuring this weekend is when it releases, correct? So be sure that you
Saturday evening, the worldwide release.
Go check it out. And if you guys are juniors out there looking for a new position, reach out to Steve Cozzolino. Send him a thank you note if you want to be moved to the top of the list. Again, man, you're fantastic. We appreciate you, and stay in touch. We'd love to see the new amazing things that are coming to fruition from Cozzolino's studio. You guys have a good rest of your day, okay? Cheers.
Thanks, Russ. Appreciate the time.
Thanks, Russ.
Had a great conversation with you guys. Love it.
All right. See you guys later.
Nice to meet you, Steve. Take it light.